Hi, and welcome to the CAFMA Connect. I'm your host, Fire Chief Scott Freitag, and with me today is none other than engineer, paramedic Adam Wagner.
How's it going, Chief?
It's going well. Adam, thank you for being here.
Absolutely.
Would you like to thank Captain Fournier for recommending you for today?
Yeah, Nick is always looking out for me and everyone really putting their best interests in mind, and he thought for sure I should be on this podcast with you today. So
Absolutely, because the other option was him. And he's like, you know who would be great out of 53 would be Wagner. And, you know, honestly, he's right. I've been wanting to get you on the podcast for a while because you've got a very interesting background, and then there's some projects that you're taking on for the agency that would be good for more people to know about, right?
Yes, for sure.
Let's start with the basics. Where'd you grow up?
Actually, I grew up right here in this area.
Okay.
I'm a Chino boy, born and raised. Lived in the same house out there until I moved out. Went to high school there, played sports there, and raised my family there for the most part until recently right now. And so, yeah, local boy.
And you're building a house right now. Where are you building?
I'm building a house out Williamson Valley, way
very
out,
nice.
Kind of past Talking Rock and the Williamson Valley Fire Station.
Okay.
Out there. So it's a really, really nice piece of property, and we're really excited.
Excellent. So I know your dad worked for Central Yavapai and actually retired from there. You started your career with Chino Valley Fire. Was it your dad who got you interested in fire, or was it something else?
Yeah, it was absolutely my dad. Growing up with Central Yavapai, being around everybody here, riding on fire trucks in the parade and all that stuff as a kid got me, interested in it from a young age. When I got older into high school, I thought about going into the military, and my dad just kind of suggested, he said, hey, check out the fire service.
Okay.
Has a lot to offer. You'd probably fit right in, with wanting to go the military route and everything else has similarities. So he agreed to pay for my Fire 1 and 2 at Yavapai College to just kind of see if I liked it. And I did that and didn't stop.
Okay.
And I got hired as a reserve with Chino Fire when I was 19. And then full-time when I was 21. So,
And when did you go to paramedic school?
I went, I was 25. My daughter's 10. So, yeah. So
you started with Chino Fire, and at some point you left Chino and you had some other ideas about a direction you were going to go. Yeah,
so while I was with Chino, everyone that's been in the organization understands the struggles we were going through at that time. Mm-hmm. Myself personally was trying to do something different, better for my family. I had talked with actually Chief Rose at the time. He was my engineer, acting captain. We were pretty close, and I kind of decided I was going to go the military route, settled on the National Guard, and I was going to try to go back to school to be a PA.
Okay.
They had a PA program that you could get into at that time. And so I decided to leave fire and try to make a run at going to PA school with the assistance of the National Guard. I got started into that program, and then that's when the sequester happened and things didn't quite work out.
Okay.
So I ended up going a different route in the military. I went engineer, became an officer, but still needed a job and missed fire. I had all these qualifications really that only worked well in an EMS or fire organization.
Right.
And at that time, Central Yavapai was hiring to the outside for the first time, looking for paramedics because they were low on paramedics.
Okay.
So then I tested with Central Yavapai and was able to get picked right back up and kind of start, not really where I left off, but a fresh start, but knew a lot of the people still and had been around the area and worked with a lot of the guys. So things went pretty seamless with that. So.
Well, and Central Yavapai and Chino Valley have always been very close.
Yeah, absolutely.
Working together, shared a reserve program for years, before we actually blended together to become CAFMA. So you were in the military. When did you go to college and finish your degree?
So actually, I'm a rare case there. I never actually finished my degree, but because I had so much education when I started, I was able to go through OCS.
Okay.
And I was able to get my commission that way because I had so much other college classes and other certifications from the fire department that actually helped me. So then while I was in, I continued to work on college, and I actually never finished my bachelor's. So that was kind of one of the reasons that I never promoted to captain in the military. That was the only thing holding me back. The National Guard is the only branch that'll let you be an officer without a degree.
Okay.
So I was in an interesting situation there as an officer, but it worked out well for me in the positions that I was in.
So how many years did you serve, or are you still in?
So I have my letter of resignation in. You have to formally resign and be released by Congress as an officer.
Okay.
And that still hasn't been finalized, but as far as any more serving time, I'm done. I did 8.5 years in the National Guard, one deployment, and then a bunch of other leave of absences from here for training and stuff like that. So
when you were deployed, where'd you go?
When I was deployed, we started out in Kuwait. That's where our main headquarters were. I had the opportunity to go to Afghanistan for a couple months and oversee some movement of different units there. And I got to travel all over Afghanistan kind of on my own, being my own boss and helping other people do things. It was a pretty unique experience.
And how long were you over there?
Total deployment, we were gone for 345 days.
Wow. Yeah, that's a long time.
Yeah,
and
so just shy of a year.
Yeah, I mean, you have kids ranging in age, but some of them are still pretty young.
Yeah. I have a daughter that just turned 5, a daughter that's 10, and then my son who just turned 16.
Right.
So yeah, it was difficult on the family.
Right.
That was the whole reason for me deploying, was kind of to have that experience in the military. But it kind of solidified that, I served my time, and it was time to be home with my family. So
I don't think a lot of people realize or think about necessarily the sacrifice it is to be deployed, and the stress that it can put on a family, especially when the spouse is at home and you have kids ranging in age, and you've got to get them to sports and schools, and the principal's calling for whatever reason, and all of these things. That's a stressful time for them, and a stressful time for the military person who's overseas.
Yeah, I couldn't have done it without my wife.
Right.
She had the hardest job. I was over there focused on our mission, but she still had to deal with life that went on here on her own. And it was hard. No doubt it was hard. It was stressful. There were some ups and downs, definitely, while we were gone. But all in all, it made us stronger and closer as a family. It was a test, but it was a good one.
Okay.
So
how was your experience overall in the military, do you think?
Overall, it was a good experience.
Okay.
I don't regret it. I wouldn't change it. I had a lot of fun at times. It was stressful and hard at times, but I made a lot of good friends that I'm still pretty close to. Got to see and do a lot of fun things. It's interesting now with things going on in the world, and have been in Afghanistan and experiencing that. It's perspective for sure on a lot of things. So
it's definitely a different time right now than I ever thought I'd see in our country, and I'm very thankful to those who have served in the military, those who are still in the military and serving our country. And what I think is great about our military is that everyone who's there volunteered to be there.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a brotherhood for sure, just like the fire service. And you all have different jobs, but you all come together and get your job done. And I'm proud to say that I did it. So
Very cool. Well, you and I talked as you were thinking about, do I stay in? Do I focus on my fire service career? And I think potentially some of what's happening in the world right now and some of the requirements the military or the federal government is implementing may help solidify that decision, not just for you, but for others.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyone that's served knows that you're kind of owned by Uncle Sam, and you have to do what they tell you to do, and you know that going into
Right.
it, and that's just how it is. So yeah, it is a little bit of a weight off the shoulders to know that I don't have to do everything that they want me to do now. So
Well, it's great being here. We do support our military members who are in the National Guard or Reserve. I know Josh, when he wanted to go become a warrant officer and go through helicopter pilot training, he came to me and he said, "Chief, is this something you would support? I have to be gone for a year." And the answer is obviously yes.
right.
I mean, what that could do for him and his family personally in that military career, as well as in the private sector, is a pretty amazing opportunity. And so at CAFMA, we try to support those things as much as we can. And I know in the new batch of folks, the new recruits we've hired, 7 people, I want to say 3 or 4 are either current or former military. So one of them's in the Air Force Reserve, one of them was an Army Ranger, and the other one was in the Army, but he's out of the Army now. And I think Kevin's out. I don't think he's in the Guard or Reserve at this point. But it's great to be able to bring those military folks in and give them a new opportunity to do something else. Like Jocko talks about having a new mission.
Right.
And I think this is a good place and a good career field for those folks to land.
Yeah, exactly. And it definitely benefited me both ways, having grown up in the fire service and starting at a young age and then going into the military. I definitely had a leg up on my peers.
Right.
And that was part of the reason I was able to advance so quickly and go through OCS and become an officer. And then coming back here, a lot of the leadership lessons that I learned and challenges that I faced as a commander, things like that, have helped me here in the leadership role, getting ready for captain and things like that.
Right.
So there's definitely some benefits, and CAFMA has always been supportive whenever I needed to go or anything I needed to do. It's never been an issue. It's always been positive. So
Right. Well, we appreciate that so many of our members have either served or are willing to serve in the military. I was in during a non-wartime, it was peacetime. So, I didn't deploy anywhere. But just having been in the military, I think is that there's lessons you take away.
absolutely, yep.
That are important life lessons. And so since you've come back out and you talked about really focusing on your career here, you approached me because there were a couple areas that you wanted to work on and help us with. And one of them is recruitment. So let's talk a little bit about that. You've got a committee together. You have some ideas. Share some of that with us.
Yeah, so it was just talking with you and conversations. We talked about some of the struggles that we're running into with recruiting new people and getting good people into positions here, not just operations, but the agency as a whole.
Right.
And it got me thinking about how we could be better at doing that. And so again, we had another meeting and talked about some things to do, and you kind of just gave me free rein to roll with it. So yeah, we had a meeting, just kind of an open forum discussion about what would be our best options to get the word out. What we kind of came down to was the general idea is to start focusing on the younger population coming up,
Right.
getting them re-interested in the fire service, and not just focusing on operations, like I said. So getting into the schools. So we have individuals that have affiliations with the schools, whether it's through a sports team or some other committee or program at a school. that they're already involved in and have a foot in the door there.
Right.
And a lot of those people volunteered to say, like Evan, he's big into Prescott. And
right.
So he was like, hey, I can start talking to people at Prescott. And actually, he just told me the other day that he got the go-ahead from Prescott and Yavapai College to start bringing stuff into that program there.
Great. Great.
Chino Valley's a go, and I'm still waiting to hear back on Bradshaw. So we're already moving forward at getting our foot in the door. But we brought up some other ideas like getting into job fairs. COVID kind of shut all that stuff down.
Yes.
We have done things like that in the past. And in fact, the front office was huge in the meeting because they already have a lot of things ready to go. We just haven't been able to implement them in the last year.
Right.
So they're going to be super helpful at getting the word out. And like I said, we want to put this out that it's not just all inclusive to operations because we have a lot of other divisions that we need good people in.
Sure.
We just put a job posting out for maintenance, and I know there's a ton of guys around here that would be great mechanics, but they probably just don't know that we have that.
Right.
So that's just stuff that we need to get the word out there. And I felt like I might have something to offer because it interests me. I want to see us grow. And I coach at the high school in Chino, and boys are always asking me, what's your job like?
Right.
And some of them are like, oh, I don't know if I could do that, but it'd be cool to work for a department or an organization like that. And I said, well, we have other things. I said, are you interested in computers and communication stuff? We have a lot of areas like that we need people in as well. So that's what got me thinking about, hey, maybe I should head this up and get something going. So
yeah, I mean, look at Jonah sitting over here producing this. He got hired here as the IT manager and was also thrown into radio systems, which was completely new for him. And then I came up with the idea and said, hey, Jonah, can we do a podcast? And he's like, well, sure, we can put it together. And he's still building that out, and other people are reaching out to him from around the state now and saying, how did you do that? What have you done? So I think one of the great things about working here, and whether you're in operations or you're in a non-ops position, is there are so many opportunities for you to do things and grow as a person, as a professional, beyond just what your basic job or job title is.
For sure. Yeah.
And that's where it's important that we do get into the school system, both the high school system, the grades, or not grade school, but the high schools, the colleges, things like that. If you don't hear back from Bradshaw pretty soon, let me know, because I happen to sit on a board with a superintendent for Humboldt, and I can just go direct.
All right.
So we can make that contact.
We'll get it figured out, I'm sure. So.
We also have, later this month, we'll be starting to record some of our first recruiting videos. We're going to have to change up the scene in the first one, but the first one's really about what does a firefighter look like? That's the theme of it. It's not specific to CAFMA. It's more the fire service. What does a person look like who's in the fire service? And I think, I hope what people will see is that anybody who's interested in being a firefighter has that opportunity to look at this as a career.
For sure.
Kayleen, unfortunately, left here. Nate, Mom, that's your fault, from Prescott Fire, if you want to know. But, she wasn't the tallest person in the room, but she was mighty.
Right.
Very, very strong. But she said, and when we talked to Leslie, she said the same thing. I didn't know that this career field was for me. I stumbled into it.
Right.
And so our thought is, how do we get out and find that talent that we're missing today because we're not looking in the right places?
Exactly. Yeah. And I think just the change in times and the dynamics of the world going on, this job maybe became less desirable in recent years. And so a lot of the discussion is, how do we make this desirable again? How do we show people, like you said, that you can showcase your skills in multiple different ways to benefit, the organization and yourself having a good career somewhere that's going to continue to grow. So
I think one of the other videos that we want to do for the recruiting page, besides just besides just the idea of recruiting a person to a job, is recruiting a person to an area. So Kathy, who's been on the podcast, her and her husband, before they settled on Prescott Valley, really looked at the community. What does the community have to offer? And we cover a large portion of Yavapai County, 365 square miles. So we have a lot of communities that we're responsible for. And there's a lot of great things to do around here.
Yeah.
I mean, outdoor activities, there's historic areas like downtown Prescott. There's good restaurants and places to shop. So we need to make this an attractive place for people who are interested in becoming a firefighter, but they want to find that right fit in community. So I've got some ideas floating around my head, some things I've seen, some drone footage from like our Economic Development Foundation video to really sell people on here's what Prescott Valley, here's what CAFMA, here's what Chino Valley, here's what the Prescott Quad City area has to offer. I mentioned to Jonah that he was talking about different things we could fly the drone over. I was thinking Lazy G. I know it's in Prescott, but people are looking for things to do, right? That's part of it. What's the nightlife?
There's a lot of cool stuff around, especially in downtown Prescott. If you're a younger person and you want to go downtown and have a good time, there's some fun things around here.
Yeah. Well, I'd be remiss if we didn't give a shout out to Founding Fathers as well as a place to fly over. Very military centric, very patriotic place, and the largest self-serve beer tap selection in the state of Arizona. Now, they're talking about building one. I know we're off topic, but they're talking about building one here in PV that would be larger. So, Grant,
pretty awesome.
You need to get that done because it's a long drive. So we've got the recruiting part of it. I think the other part of attracting people, and I mentioned it with Prescott and kind of the area, is what's our history? Where did we come from? How did we get where we are? I know when I worked for the St. Charles City Fire Department back outside of St. Louis, that was an agency that was started in 1861. I could go up to the records room and pull the log books from the late 1800s. They had all of that information there. It was so cool to read, this is the call we went on, or the first engine that we received came over on a train from the city of St. Louis, and it was called Our Lady of the Lakes. And they ran that engine, then the city of St. Charles gave it back to St. Louis, and now it's in the St. Louis History Museum on the 3rd floor. To me, fire department history is just, I love it.
Yeah,
absolutely love looking at it. And so the other thing that you came to me with was, hey, I'd like to pick up the ball and start running on the history side of the agency.
Yeah, I think it would go hand in hand with our recruiting, and that's kind of where it came in for me. And like you said, I love history too. Mm-hmm. And I have an interesting background, like we've already talked about, working for all 3 agencies,
right?
And growing up in the area and being here as a kid with Central Yavapai. So I thought, as well as doing the recruiting, I could start working on putting together the history of CAFMA, where we came from, both Chino, Central, and start putting that together in some sort of format that we could present or have available to look back on, as well as start collecting some memorabilia that's just floating around randomly at all the different stations, and a lot of the newer guys don't even know about.
Right.
So I would really like to at some point have, even if it's just one room, kind of a historical gathering of all that stuff. So been kind of working on that on my spare time, not as focused as the recruiting thing, to be honest with you. But I have some leads as far as I know Ross Prangy has already put some stuff together.
Sure.
And he's going to be leaving us soon, and he's got a wealth of knowledge and tons of years. So I'm definitely going to try to work with him as much as possible to get what he has already.
Sure.
And get some of that stuff put together, because I think it's really important that, it's as fast as we're growing, we also remember where we came from and how we started and our roots and everything else. So,
Well, I think it's important is, we are a fire authority today, so Central Yavapai and Chino Valley still exist as fire districts. One day we would like to be one merged agency just because it's a whole lot less headaches on administration as far as workload. But it is important to remember where we came from. And we've done some things here. For example, in front of admin, we've been wanting to unveil it, but COVID, we haven't been able to get everybody together to do it. But an unveiling of a paver area where the flagpole is at administration, where we put laser etched bricks for all of the former fire chiefs of Chino Valley and Central Yavapai and the dates that they served, because we do feel it's important to pay respect to those that came before us, because we wouldn't be where we are and who we are today without the work that they did.
Exactly.
And so one of the things we could look at, and this is something we should keep an eye on, eventually we want to build another building at the training center that would have an auditorium, nicer office space, more office space, but a lobby in that training building where we could store that history, have it behind glass doors and cases.
That would be ideal, just to showcase that.
Because we don't get a lot of traffic through admin from the public or other agencies, but the training academy does get a lot of foot traffic.
Right.
And for people to walk into a room that's kind of a museum to who we are, it seems like it would be the right spot.
Right. Yeah, and that was the thing, you and I had talked about. We have a lot of memorabilia at stations scattered around, but really the only people that know about it is us. And even if you don't work at that station, you probably haven't seen some of that stuff. So
right.
It'd be nice to get it all consolidated somewhere where more people can see it and it's showcased in the right way.
We'll just let Chief Para know that that's part of the plan moving forward. He doesn't care as long as he gets a building at some point.
Right.
So, but there's a lot of things that we try to do, and here's another one that we're thinking about. I don't know that it plays into your recruiting effort, but maybe. I mean, because you started when you were a little kid, right? Mm-hmm. Around your dad. I saw this back in St. Louis, and I really think it would be a cool part of the project to build the new training building, but for the community. So we have the training building, we have the auditorium. Either next to it as a standalone or as an offshoot, we build a fixed facility fire safety training area that a lot of the tours and the kids can come to. And they go to one area, it's fixed, has an engine bay off to the side, jaws of life hanging on the wall. You have an interactive pad so a kid can walk up to whatever tool's there, hit the pad, and it'll play a video about how that tool's used in a demonstration. And then you take an older engine and you cut the wheels in half so it sits directly on the floor, connect it to shore power, and the kids can go crazy crawling around on this thing.
That'd be a kid's dream right there.
I think it'd be a kid's dream, but I also think it'd be a parent's dream. Because when we get the kids there, who else comes out?
Parents.
The parents come out. And a lot of folks, when they finally come out and they're able to see the training center that we have, and they see what we do, they're very impressed. But before that, they're like, why do we have this?
Right.
Well, come out and see it. So if we can make it a central place for schools to go and parents to bring kids, we can even have a parking lot big enough where we could partner with the police agencies to do some bike rodeos. But that's just some of the thoughts on history, recruiting, bringing the public in more so they can see exactly what we do and what their tax monies pay for.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because that's important.
That's what we're all about. Is showing the public what we do and letting them be part of us. Because right. That's who we are.
Well, and we try some through this podcast, but we're not exactly viral yet. Jonah, how many views would we have to be viral?
Probably more than 100.
More than 100.
Well, maybe this is the one.
It could be, but I don't know. We were a little over 500 with Kathy and Carolyn, and then that one stalled out. And anytime John and I are on here, there's nothing. Nobody watches. Somebody may listen. I don't know. So this week with John, John's actually over working and what's the name of the program? Mighty Oaks. So John this week is over at Mighty Oaks, and he is becoming a facilitator for that organization. So
awesome.
It's great that he's taken part in that and bringing some of that back home to us as well.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
But as we were looking at this, and Nick brought your name up, and I said, no, this is perfect. We want to get Adam on because the public does seem to like it, and more people watch when we're introducing them to the people who serve the community. And they get to find out more about your background and some of the things that you're doing. And again, your background is interesting because you were Chino Valley. You were Central Yavapai, now you're CAFMA, lieutenant in the United States Army, deployment back here, focused, running full steam ahead on helping us with our recruiting efforts and taking the lead on trying to pull some of our historical documents, data, pictures, all of that stuff together. I mean, that's a lot of work and a very impressive history. So we appreciate what you do.
Well, thank you, Chief. It's glad to be a part of it. It's honestly been my pleasure to be part of all of this. So,
well, and it's fitting that we have Damien's American flag that he made for us in the background.
Absolutely.
You know, it's patriotic, military. It is unfortunate that we won't do a podcast next week, only from the standpoint of it's the 20th anniversary of 9/11. And so we may have to rethink that a little bit, see if we could do something
right
on.
now when you said that. 20 years.
20 years. I can't believe it. We said we'd never forget. I haven't forgotten. You haven't forgotten. But wow, when we look at what we're doing as a country right now, it sure seems like we've forgotten as a collective. So it'll be interesting to see. We generally get a lot of people out there that night. I'll be the MC again this year, giving some closing remarks. And I mean, if you haven't been there to hear my closing remarks, you may want to come out because you never know what I'm going to say, but you know that I'm going to challenge you because I'm not afraid to call things as I see them. And I will be doing that night and challenging the United States, challenging our citizens to be better than we're being today.
Can always be better, right?
Yeah, we can always be better, and we certainly haven't been in the last couple of years. So, I don't know. It's a patriotic event. It's beautiful. The healing fields, they go up September 10th. What an amazing sight. I mean, like you, I get chills every time I see it, especially at night when the lights are shining on it. It's just amazing. If I could get up early enough, I might go out and watch sunrise over them, but yeah, I'm up, but I'm trying to get in the gym with my one good arm. The other one's just along for the ride. So, Jonah, let's think about it. We may be able to do something Tuesday because it would be nice to capture 9/11. And maybe instead of a lot of talking from me and whoever else, we could pull in some video and pictures from 9/11 just to commemorate. I think that's important. So with that, are you going to fire school next week, Mesa?
I am not.
Okay.
Not this year.
I will be down there. I'm going to try to learn something for you.
Right.
Actually, I'm facilitating the new chief seminar. So I'll be down there all week long, but I'm driving back Saturday to speak, and then I'm turning around and driving back to Mesa that night. So, yeah, it is what it is. Happens every year.
Yep.
So, Adam, again, thank you very much for all that you do. Thank you for your service to our country. Thank you to your family for their service as well. And until next week's 9/11. We said we'd never forget. Don't forget. And to quote something or someone, dude, be nice. Stop being rude to people. It's happening a lot. We need to be better. I'm going to try to be better this week. Are you going to try to be better?
Always.
Excellent.